Welcome, Alex. Thank you so much for continuing to be here with us. And we're really excited to move the conversation now to talking about trauma and a little bit of that worry. We were discussing about all the March Madness, coming in and how we can have empathy through that. But we're also still dealing with a lot of, the kids, the trauma they've had from being within the school system, things that they've been facing, not really understanding what's going on. The adults having spent 2 years literally being kind of trapped in this psyop. And, we've been in this psyop for 2 solid years. Many say decades we have been, but it's been apparent 2 years. Yep. So how do we deal with moving through that because of what it can do in our bodies and how that can linger long-term? And so let's first address, what are some of the signs that we should physically be looking for to know that we have been in a state of trauma?
Good question. Well, I think to some degree, all of us have been in a state of trauma because of the lockdowns, the constant propaganda, the messaging, the arguing with family and friends and strangers about the jab and the mask and what's really going on and wanting them to wake up and whatever. So there's a fatigue for all of us spiritual warriors on the front line, a battle fatigue. And so that shows up in various forms. There's various types of traumas. So let's start there. There's what are called big T traumas. So this is like being in the theater of war, being in a car accident, sexual assault, et cetera. And then there are little T traumas. So the little T traumas could be emotional abuse. It could be just experiences like what I just described of what we've all been through. So there's been a collective trauma that we've experienced. So the first place to start is by acknowledging that that's real and that's what's gone on. That's step one. Step two from there is then to move into, okay, so if this is real and if this is something that maybe I've been through to some capacity, then how do I know? What are the signs? What lets me know that this is the case? So getting short-tempered, being fatigued in your body. Part of this is going to, there's a lot of layers that are going on. So we see in the 3D world around us, the talking points, the pandemic, and just everything that's kind of been going on, that's on the surface. But behind the scenes, from a spiritual perspective, there is a lot, as we know, that are also happening, not just with the white hat versus black hat thing, but I'm talking about us leveling up as a world, as an earth, moving into this 5D world, using this cover of all of the darkness as such extreme in order for people to kind of wake up and say, whoa, this is getting really bad. What's going on? I don't like this. This isn't what I signed up for. So sometimes you see that taking the form of suicide, or you see that taking the form of self-harm with teens. It's at an epidemic level. That in and of itself is what needs to be discussed. You see this, unfortunately, it breaks my heart, but in the young children right now, who for the past 2 years haven't been able to see their peers, their teachers, the folks around them move their mouth, show their face. That is so critical for development as a child, to have that social learning theory and that modeling being presented. That I'm sure you've seen this from, I think it's the CDC that had this data, but they're showing that children now are not meeting the benchmark levels of being able to form enough words per minute.
They changed it. They changed the guidelines in the American Pediatrics Association. They changed it. They pushed it back anywhere from like 6 months to 8 months further along now, because they have to hide the data somewhere. So they just shifted the bar.
First, it came out of them saying, we're not meeting the level. And then they quickly covered it up by changing the data. Yeah. And if you notice, they've also done that in terms of the number of deaths too, by on different age groups, but particularly children. It was like something ridiculous, like 70,000. They're like, oh, it was a coding error. And you're seeing this more and more with different age groups, So all of this is done for a reason. Why are they doing this? Because they know what's coming. This is kind of like what we were talking about in the last segment with the empathy. One real piece to highlight more with that is it's when I used to do workshops of teaching people how to red pill, I would have the entire audience say collectively, it is not my job to wake up anybody else. And I would have them repeat that over and over and over again, because we get so passionate that we're like, oh my gosh, look at this. I want to share this with you because I care about you and want you to see it too, like I see. And if they're not at a place with their soul contract or whatever reason to wake up, then when I describe to clients, I call it the 50-50, that there's, imagine an invisible line that separates you from the other person. And anything beyond that line is now dubbed their 50, which means they are 100% responsible for their emotions, their feelings, and their reactions. But anything behind that line is now my 50. And I am 100% responsible for my emotions, thoughts, and actions. And so the whole point is respecting the line. At what point do I start crossing over the line? And at what point do people start crossing over the line into my 50? Mm-hmm. And so the difference here is about this understanding of control versus influence. I can influence other people. I can try to show them information. I can try to help them on their journey with whatever questions they may have. But if they don't have an interest in that, I can't control that. I can't force them to wake up. Mm-hmm. So that's going to happen in and of its own. So the real factor here is that trusting, that patience that we were talking about last time, of like knowing that all of this, less than 5% in the end are going to be the only ones who don't wake up. That's 95% of people, 3 to 5%. Okay. So out of that percentage, that means that everybody soon will wake up. But that doesn't mean that I'm waking that up. That for the people that aren't awake now, they are not going to wake up until their circumstances change, which is going to be outside of my control. So I can't do anything to control that anymore. So now my work is with my 50. And that's where kind of the trauma piece comes in. That when I start worrying, now there's 2 levels to the 50-50. One is external, when I'm looking at my relationship with other people. I'm having a conversation with a family member or a friend, and I'm starting to get heated and we're talking about different things. And I'm just like, oh, why don't you get it? So then it comes back to, okay, what's my 50? Where's that line? How do I set that boundary for respect? I still love this person. I'm not wanting to get into this adversarial role. So I have to scale back. Okay. So that's the external 50-50, but there's also an internal 50-50. So what does that mean? That means, for example, keeping that same situation going, that after that conversation ends and that person goes elsewhere, I'm left alone with me and the 4 walls around me. So how long do I sit there and spin with this situation going through my mind? Oh, I wish I would have said this. Oh, if I only introduced that piece of evidence. Oh, only maybe this would help them wake up. That's me now starting to go into their 50s still, even though they're not there. And this is where a lot of us have been, that create these kind of fatigued, traumatic reactions to it all. Mm-hmm. So there's multiple layers in terms of where the trauma originates and how it's showing up for us. Either way, it falls on us to be responsible to do our work. So where do we start with that? How do we do that? The first step always with everything is the word awareness. As I say it, awareness is step 1. My little kitty is wanting to come and say hello.
I love it.
To Stella.
Aww.
Yes.
I'm aware of you, Stella.
Yeah, exactly. So awareness, insight, having some sort of like knowledge to realize what's going on. I'm flipping my radar on. I'm saying, oh, okay, wait a minute. Like smelling salts, right? Okay, whoa, hello, I see it, right? Yeah. Now, in the field, in psychology, we call that mindfulness, right? That mindful awareness. I'm recognizing the present moment, but there's a caveat to it. I'm not just recognizing the here and now. I'm also doing so in a non-judgmental way. I'm not judging what I'm seeing. So that awareness is huge. So being able to say, oh, I feel like I've got ascension symptoms. My ears are ringing. I've got a splitting headache. I'm just fatigued all the time. So what do I need to do to nurture and care for my 50? And a big factor that I often see with folks is them feeling selfish by asking this question. Mm-hmm. So the real difference here that I always tell my clients is there's a difference between selfishness and self-care. Mm-hmm. My favorite quote is very simple but profound at the same time, as quotes usually are. And it simply says, you can't pour from an empty cup. So that means you've got to have something in your tank if you're wanting to give it to other people. Mm-hmm. So if you're getting low with your own reserve of heart energy because you're so traumatized and fatigued from everything that's been going on, then you have to nourish yourself. You have to plug in and recharge. So there's a million ways to do that. But a powerful way is just getting in touch with the heart. There's so many ways that you can do that. Getting out of your own life situation and caring about someone else, volunteering, doing something that's invested for other people is one way. Meditating, practicing some self-compassion, doing metta meditation, METTA, being able to have like a device like Healy. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Healy device, but it's a frequency device.
Like Rife or Skio?
It's very similar to Rife. It's kind of like a spin-off technology of that. And being able to just put those pads on, and there's countless different programs out there, but being able to do something that's kind of nourishing to you. Maybe it's not even on a spiritual heart energy. Maybe it's something physically, maybe it's I need to be eating better. I need to clean up my diet, or I need to be exercising more. The 3 pillars of our health are going to be sleep, diet, and exercise. So being able to do an inventory with that. I've got to care about me, but there's a balance here, right? Caring about me and caring about other people. Like, where is that split for me? And so often what I see with parents is it's all about caring about other people. And then it's like, well, if I have a little reserved energy, then maybe I'll do a little bit for me. I'll take an hour once a week and splurge by doing something fun or nourishing, right? That this is food for us, just like physical food. We need to be doing this every single day. We don't say to ourselves, well, it's selfish if I eat, so I'll just wait till Saturday. We eat every day. So we need to be eating in a spiritual sense too, every single day. So it doesn't matter how much time you invest to it. It's about the bang for the buck. What does that mean? Maybe my spiritual energy comes in the form of exercising, taking 45 minutes to go for a walk, being in nature, talking to a friend while I'm going for a walk, hit 2 birds with 1 stone, So the point is you're having to go within yourself in order to tap into that inner wisdom, that intuition, like what we were talking about before. And as we continue to do that, there will be messages that come up that will kind of guide you, point you, subtly shift you to go in the direction of what you're most needing. But we have to show up and do that work first. We have to be open. What do they say? If you knock, the door will be opened. Well, what's the first part of that? What's the caveat? We have to knock, So how are we knocking? What does that mean? What does that look like for us? So that's how we kind of work through the worry, the traumas, et cetera. Now, let's talk about worry, because that's a very common thing for all of us.
Worry.
I
want to add something in really quick.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just in regards to the self-care and, how parents tend to, always put their children first and them last. You doing self-care for yourself is also teaching your children self-care.
Yes.
So that when they are parents and they grow up to be the adults, they have learned from you. I have been doing this, honestly, very recently in my own home. I was feeling extremely, extremely depleted in realizing that absolutely nothing in my life was filling my cup. I had completely, it was a drought season.
Yeah.
And I addressed it with my kids. I was very, very open about it. And, I told them, I said, I have to work on self-care. I need to start filling my cup back up. And, and that looked for me, I found things to add to it. And I always use the words, well, I'm working on self-care. I'm filling up my cup. So, and I use those terms with them. And my kids said, Mom, are you starting to feel better? Is your cup starting to get more full? And, so they understood that. So for parents, it's that self-care is still you teaching your children how, when they are adults, then they know how to do that. Sorry, I just wanted to add that in.
That's such a crucial point. I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because the biggest way that other people in general in life, not just kids, learn is through social learning theory, which means modeling. So it's not what you say, it's what you show. So if you have a 1-2 punch of your showing, but then you're also backing it up in terms of the rationalization or like the explicit conversation of like, see, mommy did some self-care there. And that's a good thing. And that, maybe it's your turn. Maybe you want to do some self-care, and then guide them. What would that look like for you? How are you feeling right now? Show me your temperature gauge of where your energy level is. Are you high? Are you medium? Are you low? Sometimes I have parents do like a traffic light. And so on their kitchen in the magnets there, I have them draw out red, yellow, and green. And then at any given moment, the kids are allowed to go up there and put their sticker with their face next to which form of energy they're at. So then if they're at yellow, you're teaching them to tune in to say, I'm not at green right now. That's the best gift that you can ever teach your children, ever, is that inner connection. So I'm at yellow right now. Or, oh my gosh, I had a really bad day. You know, Johnny made fun of me again, or whatever happened, you know, the cat's sick or what have you. And so I'm at red. So then that's step one. That's the awareness, like I was saying, you see. So then step two from there is saying, once I'm at a yellow or a red, or I'm starting to feel like at least I'm not at green, but I don't know where I'm at yet, that emotional awareness. Then from there, the second step is in saying, okay, so what am I going to do about this? How do I ground? How do I self-soothe? What do I need to do to bring that color back down to green? So in any stage of life that we're going through obstacles, there are always two steps toward making change. The first step is what? What's going on? That's the radar flipping on, the smelling salts, the awareness, the insight, whatever word we want to put there. That's always step one. And once we have that established, that's the catapult, the foundation. Then we can move into step two. So if step one is what, step two is how. So once we have that initial understanding, then we start problem solving in terms of like, so what can I do about this? I have some data now in terms of looking at where I am. So how is that in relationship to where I want to be? And this goes back to what I said last time about effectiveness, right? With that kind of cold or hot, like, well, let me try this. Let me experiment. And is that working? Is that helping me get there? Am I moving from a red down to a yellow? If so, great, fantastic. I've got reflections and insight, feedback coming at me from life saying, good job, keep it up. This is effective. But if I'm experimenting with some things and I'm like, I'm practicing my self-soothe kit or doing some deep breathing or trying to distract myself through watching a cartoon or something, and I'm not really getting any better, then that's also good, awesome, helpful, because it's still feedback from life, you see. And so now the information is just saying, this isn't effective, meaning you're getting colder. So you're not wanting to judge that. You're wanting to thank and welcome that information to then move into, well, let's continue problem solving to see what we can do. Yeah. So this is the biggest thing here is don't mix up the simplicity of this with the magnitude of power that it can offer us as humans. This is such like trite, basic information. Like, well, duh, that makes sense. But are we applying it?
Right. And it's very individualized.
Yes.
Everybody's got their own self-soothe. And
that's right. Exactly.
I love all this information, Alex. And I'm so excited. And the next show, because I want to dive more into Life 2.0, which you addressed in our very first show, because we're going to start bringing this back up to High Vibe 5D, because we've been talking about the trauma, talking about the worry, talking about all this. So when we come back together again, we're going to talk about Life 2.0, and you can explain that more to us.
That sounds good.
Excited. Awesome. See you in the next show.